Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about how to go through and set up your first Zoom meeting. This is for beginners. It's about 30 minutes and I suggest you watch it all the way through the first time, then come back and follow the steps the second time. If you're new to this channel, I usually record these videos in batches, so I will be recording a lot of different videos on Zoom. If you have a request, please post it below. And if this has helped you or any of my videos have helped you, go ahead and post that below too. Okay, let's get started. So there's a couple of different accounts that we're going to be talking about. This is a free account. I'm actually going to focus today on the one that says great for small teams, which is for pro. If you have the business or enterprise, you'll actually have a lot of these features. You'll just have additional features. So the main difference between the free account and the pro account is that with free, you can have unlimited one-on-one meetings, meaning one host, one participant, right? But what you can do is if you want to hold meetings with up to 100 participants, then you're going to want to upgrade to the pro version. I am going to point out a couple of things. I'm going to jump right into what to do after you sign in and start setting up everything. So a lot of the features are included, but once you get to the pro account, there are some optional add-ins. So if you're running out of space or you want to go live or you want to create rooms, there's a lot of additional things like webinars, but make sure that you check these out to see if they are things you need. Again, our features will be focused primarily right here. The other thing I want to bring out is if you're using Zoom for education or for telehealth or for developers, you should go ahead and head over to these links and go ahead and jump in there. All right, let's go and let's talk about how you set up your account and prepare for your first meeting. Okay, today we're going to go over how you set up your profile, meetings, recordings, and settings. I'm not going to go over webinars. That's for an entirely different plan that I do not have access to. Most people who choose the base level plan will not have webinars. Okay, so the first thing I would suggest you do is you change your photo. For now, mine is actually pulling from Facebook. The way you do that is down here when it says sign in details. Once you connect your accounts like Facebook and Google, it will allow you to actually pull those images from there. It's just a lot easier. If you are a school or you have something separate where you don't want your Facebook image pulling in, you can just change that up here. This is your meeting number, your personal meeting ID. This is something that it just basically stays the same. You can definitely edit it, and you'll see when I go to meetings, you can choose when you use this number or when a new number is generated. Think of this as a phone number. So, but it's actually for your meeting. So when someone joins your meeting, you can give them this ID, but it's really used for instant meetings. For instance, I may tell someone, let's jump on Zoom. This is going to be the meeting ID each time. I keep it in my phone, so if I want to just tell people what the ID is, it's really, really quick. However, when we move to meetings, again, when you schedule different classes or different strategy sessions or different things, you can generate new numbers each time. I did mention that you can sign in with your Facebook or Google. What that does is if you forget your passwords a lot, it helps you have one password. So when you link your Google and Facebook accounts, that allows you to log in with those IDs instead of always the original Zoom password. We're going to skip down to your date and time. I'm going to give you a couple of tips here. Of course, make sure you edit these so all of your time periods are correct. So Eastern time, your date format, and then if you want to use the 24-hour time period or just normal, the way I'm using mine now, I do not use the 24-hour time period. I always seem to have to calculate when I do it that way. All right. This is very important to me. The reason why is this actually puts my meetings from Zoom on my calendar automatically. I can also schedule Zoom meetings from my calendar. I use Google Calendar and I can instantly schedule Google meetings. So I'm going to go ahead and connect my calendar. In this instance, I use Google. This says allow Zoom to get calendar event and allow Zoom to sync contacts. I'm going to go ahead and connect it to my calendar. and allow, and allow. All right, now that it's all connected, when I schedule a meeting here on Zoom, it will automatically show up. Or even if I schedule a meeting on my calendar that is not a Zoom calendar meeting, but just a regular meeting, I can actually see that in my Zoom desktop app. And I'll show you that a little bit later. All right, here are my passwords. And then you can also sign out from multiple devices, just in case you signed on your phone or a public computer, just some security issues. Let's go down to meetings. This is where the nitty gritty is, right? So at the top, you have upcoming meetings, previous meetings, personal meeting room. That's the one with our personal ID, and our meeting templates, okay? So upcoming meetings, this is pulling from my calendar. It's not a Zoom, and actually it is a Zoom meeting. I see the meeting ID. It's pulling from my calendar, but I've scheduled some upcoming items. Here are the meeting IDs for those upcoming meetings. I can delete them or start right from here. Keep in mind that I can look at my recently deleted items right in my right-hand corner. And again, you can schedule meetings directly from your calendar. I'm going to go ahead and download the extension. This Chrome extension, think of it like an app that you would put on your phone. It's just for your computer browser, your internet browser for Chrome. You, of course, have to have Chrome. So there's Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome. Those are all internet browsers. But this allows you to schedule, and let's make sure I'm signed in. Really important. Make sure you're signed in with the right ID up here. And add it to Chrome. When it is installed, what you're going to see on your Chrome toolbar is you're going to see this button that says Zoom, and you can actually schedule or start your meetings with your video on or off. So just a quick way for you to start without going to the Zoom site or using the desktop app. All right, let's go ahead and make this full screen again. The next one is your previous meetings. This is not where you're going to find recordings. This is just where you're going to find all the details related to that meeting. Okay, I'm going to go back one step and let's actually schedule a meeting so you can see both of these. So I'm going to go back to upcoming meetings. Notice there's a schedule a meeting, and I'll talk about the details. So this is my training for YouTube. Description goes here. Let's make it tonight at 6 p.m. Of course, you can change it to another date. Use the arrows and the dates and click done when you're finished. You can also type in a time. So if there's not a time that's showing, wouldn't be 615, but say it's 6:17, right? You can actually set that there, and the duration. Here's a quick tip. I will set the duration as an hour and a half, but if my meetings go over, there's nothing here that's going to stop your meeting for whatever reason. This is more related to registration. If you set it where people have to register, after a certain time, they won't be able to enter depending on the settings. Okay? Time zone, you could set different time zones for that particular meeting. Make it recurring. So if this is every weekly, every Tuesday, and you could say it can end on a particular date after a certain amount of occurrences. If you're doing, say, coaching calls, this is a great thing if you schedule it for a certain day every week, or teachers, courses, things like that. What's great about this is you can use the same setting. So everyone always knows the meeting number, the password, all of that. Each week you don't have to change. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that for now. Registration required. I use this when I have a course that someone has paid for somewhere else. They have to register to get the information. That means they get the reminders from this system. Again, this is something that you have to make a decision if you want them to register for your course or your meeting, or if you just want to send out the meeting number. I don't use that frequently. However, for this particular training, I'll go ahead and choose registration required so you can see what happens when you set that setting. All right, meeting IDs for each meeting are going to be different, or you can use your personal meeting ID that you saw in the beginning. And password. I usually don't set this. It causes me a lot of problems. However, You may require a password because it is a sensitive topic, or maybe if this is your doctor meeting with a patient, it's to ensure that only you two can join, okay? There is a setting where the link that you send out includes the password as well, which I think kind of defeats the purpose, but whatever. All right, these are your video settings. I always set my video to off and the participants' video to off. That way, when we're ready to turn it on, we can go ahead and switch that on. Audio. When you're in a meeting, you have the option to call in from a phone or audio on your computer. Audio from the phone is 98% of the time going to be a lot better. Just depends on where you are, but in the United States, it should be a lot better from the phone. You do have an area where you can select to give your attendees local numbers so they can call in from their own country and they're not charged. Okay, I always choose both so attendees can switch between. Okay, meeting options. Enable join before host. That means if someone gets there before you, so say the meeting starts at 6, they join at 5:55, they can get in the room, start chatting, see things. I always turn that off and I have people wait for me, but it's up to you. Mute participants, I would always choose this because when people come in, they start talking. This ensures that they're on mute when they first come. So enable waiting room. What this means and how this is different than join before host is enable waiting room means that you as the host have to allow each person to come in. I don't do this. It can be very annoying, but you'll get a pop-up and you can allow. Sometimes I don't see it because I'm running the meeting, but instead of everyone just joining the room when they click the link, they have to kind of, it's like someone knocking on the door, like, hey, I'm here, and you open the door to let them in versus leaving your door unlocked and they can just walk in. Okay, only authenticated users can join. That means they have to create a Zoom account, sign into Zoom account. Where this works well is if you're trying to account for students, like registration, to make sure they actually attended. This is a great thing because you make sure they are signing in with their ID. But again, that's up to you on how you do that, but it also helps identify people. Okay, I always record my meetings automatically. I will turn them off if I don't want them to be recorded, but this just ensures that I don't forget. You can set in another area if the recordings, if you want everyone who joins to approve of the recording, okay? Now, I go back and forth with these. In the cloud means it's saved in Zoom, and if you are paying for Zoom, then there's a limited space. So you can set your settings to delete every 30 days, 15 days, or leave them forever, delete them when you want. I used to always do it on my local computer. If you record to your local computer, it is going to take some time after your meeting. So you do have to leave your computer open. You need to make sure it doesn't crash, all of that kind of things. But I used to save all of them to my local computer. I started saving them in the cloud. And then what happens is I give my students a certain amount of time when they have to download before I delete it, okay? Zoom was kind of bogged down by all of these people using Zoom automatically. So I did have a time where it took almost maybe about 4 or 5 days to get my recording, which is a long time, but it was there, right? It processes after. There is a space where you can set specific settings for your recorded meetings, what's recorded, what's not. There is also a space where you can allow students or attendees to record on their own locally. So they can record and download it. You can turn that feature on if that's an option you want to explore. Alternative hosts have to be within your account, a user in your account. So that means you'll be paying for both of those. I don't have that, so I'm just gonna save this as is. All right, I would go ahead and add it to my calendar, but since it's connected, it's gonna already show up on my calendar. But this is something that basically has all the information in. Okay, the meeting ID, all of that is right here. All right, this is what you send out to everyone who needs to register. Now, this one is a registration one. If you don't have a registration and you just have people going to the link, when you copy this invitation, it's going to have the actual Zoom number. So notice this is not giving them the actual meeting number. They will not get the meeting number until after they register. I'll come back and edit this in a minute so you can see the difference. But this is the main thing I wanted to show you that's different about registration. Here, you can see who registers. You can actually send yourself an email. You can decide to approve automatically, or you manually get to approve those who join. Send an email to anybody send yourself an email anytime someone registers, and then close it after the event date. Remember I told you the event date and time is there, so if you want to close down registration so people cannot view it after. Now, why would you leave that open? Why would you not check that? Remember, this is recorded, so if you want people to be able to register and then watch the replays, you can do that even after the date. This also gives you the ability to turn on or off whether they can share on social media. This is all of the required information, okay? And you can add required fields and different information for people to fill out when they register for your meeting. Here are custom questions. I would just add a new question. They can give a short answer or a single answer, and you make it required. I would ask something like, what's your business goals, or what's your frustration? So whatever you need to know before the meeting, that you can put there. Okay, I'm going to show you what the registration link looks like, because I want to show you one other thing. Okay, this is what the link looks like, but you can upload a banner here. So if you look at the bottom here, I'm going to skip email settings and go to branding. You can upload a banner. It has to be these dimensions, right? So make sure you use the dimensions and it'll look a lot better. I've done this in the past. You could also upload your logo. Okay, email settings. I'm gonna go back to, come on. Email settings. Who do you want to receive the registrations? And then what is the email that they're receiving? So once they're confirmed, so this information can't be changed. This is all the information they need to log in, but you can put a thank you topic or thank you kind of introduction at the top, and also their confirmation topic. So it can say confirmation. This meeting topic is going to pull from whatever you name the meeting, but you can also kind of customize this to like, hey, you're in, or whatever you'd like to do. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. And I'm going to edit this because I actually don't want this to be something that you have to register for. So I'm going to go back to my meetings. Okay, this is the training. And actually, now that I remember, let me just see something. I'm going to edit this meeting. There it is. And then registration, I'm going to turn that off so it's not required. Come on. There you go. So I'm going to go ahead and save here. And now, instead of that registration link, now you see a join URL. People can join with just this URL. However, when you send out the invitation, this information, that's everything that's sent. So remember, we turned it on. So let me just see. So these are the local numbers. We let them know that we're in the East Coast, right? And so it's giving local numbers, but there's also dial by your location, and then local numbers. This will allow them to find numbers that are in their own country so they don't have to pay. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and move down to previous meetings. I just want to show you a couple of things. Again, this is how you can save them as templates. So if all your meetings you want the same settings, you could save it as a meeting template. I'm just going to go ahead and save this. This was a dinner that we were planning for our family. Okay. This is our personal meeting room number. So meeting room. So remember when we first started, under your profile, you have a meeting ID that's your personal ID. You get set up specific settings. They're the same settings that we talked about in our meetings, but anything that you set under upcoming meetings is for that individual meeting. The personal meeting room is for your instant meetings and how you want that to start and anything that you want to put on there. Okay. Meeting templates, we just saved our meeting template. So if I want to schedule a new template using a new meeting using this template, I simply come here and click on schedule. Think of this as like copying and pasting a meeting that you've done to make sure that it is correct. Okay. All right. Let's move down to recordings. Now, these are my previous recordings. I'm not going to go to the second page because I have some client things there, but I just want to go over a couple of things. Under your settings, I'm just clicking on settings over there in the right-hand corner. It's the same as going down here to settings. So notice we're in recordings. It goes to the settings. This goes back and forth. We're actually going to come back here, but I just want to let you know that you can access that multiple ways. That's all your settings for that you set before you record your meeting. Now, here is where you find, you can actually, here's where you find your ID. So if you have the meeting ID or the name or topic or anything like that, you can also export a list of everything. Anything that you've deleted is over here. Here's how to quickly share. We'll go over these settings. There's different ways, but I can click on the share button. And I can say anyone who has this link can download it. This is what I usually send out. However, you can say also only authenticated users. This means anytime someone needs to rewatch it, they have to sign in to do that. It gives you the ability for them to either just rewatch it or have the ability to download it. I want them to download it in my case. So you can actually turn this on or off and on demand. So this means they purchased a course from you. Anytime they need this means that they have to actually register, and then they get that information on demand. And then you could also send out a password. So this is how you copy and paste and send that out. There are more details that you can go through when sharing. I actually download the files here. And the 3 files in my case, are the audio file, the text from the chat, and then also the actual recording. Again, we'll go through that again, more when we get into the settings. Local recordings. So remember, I had my cloud recordings. Those are the ones that are saved on Zoom's servers. So they go up to the cloud and Zoom has everything. These are my local recordings. I love that I can see exactly where they were saved. This also happens on the desktop app. So you can actually go through there and see all of your recorded meetings and jump to that meeting. Absolutely love that feature. Okay, let's go into our settings, and I'm going to hop over to the recording settings, and we'll come back over to the meeting settings in a minute. I'm going to go over a lot of these. I'm going to skip a couple, but this is really important for you to figure out how you're going to work and what you want to do when you share your recordings. You're kind of planning in advance. So local recording means your students or your attendees can also record the meeting. So I thought I had this off, but I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Okay? Because this might be something that you tell people you don't have a replay for, and then if they have this on, they can actually record the meeting on their side and download it. Okay? So this is what is actually recording and what is saved. So for me, I record the active speaker. That means if I'm talking and then a student asks a question, the screen will switch to the student. So it just records me, then it switches to the student, and it records that as one video. Okay? Record gallery view with shared screen. So this also records your shared screen. Gallery view is when you see all of the students, like say you have 6 students and yourself, you'll see all of those students on the screen and your shared screen. It actually creates an additional, actually the next one records an additional screen. So the third one is record active speaker, the person who's talking, and the gallery view, everyone who's in the audience, and then the shared screen separately. That means you're gonna have 3 downloaded files. It also means that you're taking up more space, right? If you're using Zoom to hold your recordings. So for whatever reason, this might be something that you wanna do, and you can do that, and it will share it, it will keep it as separate files. Record an audio only file. I highly suggest you do this. I have students that will go through the course, rewatch the course, and then they will download the audio file and they'll listen to it on their way to work. If you're teaching a course or if you're teaching people in school, this is a way for them to study for the test, right? So give them the ability to have the audio file. Save the chat message. Again, this is a personal decision, but I always allow people to save the chat message. I send a lot of resources, questions. I sent out links in there. So it gives the audience the ability to download, kind of like notes. We're taking notes as we're going through the meeting. All of these are kind of self-explanatory, or actually not really that. You can just go through these, click on the question marks and see what you want as far as time stamping and all of that kind of stuff. I'm going to go down. This is where I set it up to automatically record every meeting into the cloud. And then it also allows me to pause or stop the recording when I want to. It's really important because there's certain things that I don't necessarily want recorded, but maybe I'll give people a bonus, or I'll share a personal story, or someone else will share a personal story and I want to stop or pause it, right? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and skip a lot of these. The only thing I wanted to bring up, where is it? Okay, two things. Require a password. If you want people to, just for the cloud recordings, have a password, you can set that here. Also, auto delete. You could set it up to auto delete. I used to have it like 30 days, 60 days, but now I go back and I manually delete certain ones. It's up to you, whatever your scenario is. The host can delete cloud recordings. That's another thing. A lot of times your admin might turn this on or off. And then this is the disclaimer I talked about, where people have to accept every time they enter the room. And then I believe that's all that I set. Okay, so that's for the recordings. Again, let's jump back into the recordings. We'll come back to the meetings and let's look at some things that you can do. These are some tips and tricks before you share. So I'm going to go into a session that I had the other day, and notice I can copy the shareable links. These are the 3 files. Each of the files I can send a link individually or download it individually. Rename this, share it from here. But here is the big thing that I want to show you. A lot of times when I'm starting a strategy session or meeting with my client, when we first come in, we're like, hey, how you doing? How's the kids? Blah, blah, blah. People are coming in late. You're helping people. So I don't necessarily think they need to see all of that in the replay. And then also at the end, you may trail off. So you can come in here and kind of like clip or snip where you want people to be able to view. I'm just going to go ahead and pause this for a minute. Okay. Oh, pause. Okay. So you can see everything over here. What you can do is set the playback range. So I'm going to click this, and you could say it starts at a certain time and then it stops at a certain time. You just drag it to say when it starts and stops. After you save, once you share that link, what it's going to do is anyone who gets that link will only see your playback. So once you start sharing it, it's only going to see what you've decided they should play back. I think that's an amazing feature. I try to cut out all the fluff so you can go through and actually share only what needs to be shared. All right, let's head back over to the settings. I want to wrap this up by going through your meeting settings. So notice on your left-hand side, there are additional ways to kind of jump through this. When you schedule a meeting, it gives you different options. So whether you're scheduling it to start with the video, all of the settings that we kind of talked about. If the participants have to start with the video, you can turn all of those settings on here. This is actually what we set in the individual meetings, but there's also some additional kind of features here. I would just go through and choose what the settings are. We've went through all of this during this training, but again, can the participants save the chat? Are you automatically saving the chats? Can you use file transfers? Do you want to limit what kind of files? Can people transfer files? Can people send feedback to Zoom? Can you use polls? All of these are just, you can turn on a whiteboard. There's a lot of things that you can do. But I would go through these and set these up, test them out, right? And see if you would allow certain things. So a couple of the advanced features that I do want to kind of go over is breakout rooms. If you are in a classroom setting, you might have different groups that you want to meet side by side or in a different group. There's a lot of additional features that you can go through in here. So go through this, set up your meeting in advance, but this is going to be everything that applies to all of your meetings. And I turn some on, I kind of play around with it, but definitely go through and set these settings before you schedule your first. The last thing that I would do is go ahead and go down all the way to the bottom and download Meetings Clients, Zoom Room and Clients. These are all the extensions that you would need. So I'm just going to go over to download and download which ones apply. I'm going to go ahead and download the client for meetings, which I already have. And then I'm going to create a separate video that will take you through some of these other features for when you start your first meeting. Make sure you check out some of my other videos related to Zoom and ask me questions below, but don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with your friends. Ciao!